Alright, so Mrs. Yan, so in the next few weeks or days, I don't know how I'm gonna do it yet, I will be releasing videos that explain what is on my BODE custom senior court jacket. It still feels very surreal to say that, to finally have it in my possession. So I am very purposeful, I am very intentional with my words and actions. This week it's a special one because I will be explaining these two illustrations. The first one is BODE reinterpretation of Sisyphus pushing the boulder up a hill. And this beautiful gentleman right here, his name is Albert Camus. He is a French-Algerian philosopher / writer. He is the author behind the myth of Sisyphus, The Stranger, The Fall, The Plague, and many more. But his best work is the myth of Sisyphus. Okay, so why are these two illustrations on my very, very expensive jacket today? When I discovered his philosophical idea of absurdism, it has changed me for the better. It was very, very important for me to have this image of him on my jacket. In a way, I'm thanking him for making me a better person and for giving me that extra guidance to navigate life. He expanded my perspective on life. The second illustration is this quote by Albert Camus, and it says, "One must imagine Sisyphus happy." I will explain that later. So I told BODE that they could either do just the quote of it or they can do the illustration. They opted for the second option. They did the illustration of Sisyphus pushing the boulder up a hill. And I have read the myth of Sisyphus a few times now. It's not an easy read. It has a lot of old English language, so it's a bit complicated, and I wanted to make sure I understand it, but I still don't think I fully understand it. Okay, so if you're not familiar with Sisyphus, here is a short story.
Sisyphus's punishment was a straightforward task, rolling a massive boulder up a hill. But just as he approached the top, the rock would roll all the way back down, forcing him to start over and over and over for all eternity.
Camus would later on turn the story of Sisyphus into one of his more famous examples in the realm of absurdism. So in the myth of Sisyphus, the essay he wrote, Camus posited the idea that life is nothing but a series of contradictions, meaninglessness, paradox, overall very anarchic. To believe in karma, to believe in good versus bad, is to believe that the universe has some sort of plans and it's a living and breathing conscious being, which is absurd because billions, if not trillions of us, I don't think we reached trillion yet, billions of us have asked the question of, what is the point of life? Is there meaning to anything in the end? Why are we here? What's the point of us being here? And we have been met with a resounding indifference. Camus likens humanity's needs for answers to these existential questions to Sisyphus pushing the same boulder up the hill every day.
But the vivid image of someone condemned to endlessly repeat a futile task has resonated as an allegory about the human condition. In his classic essay, The Myth of Sisyphus, existentialist philosopher Albert Camus compared the punishment to humanity's futile search for meaning and truth in a meaningless and indifferent universe.
So I'm going to say the word absurd a lot, so let's define it first. Webster defined it as ridiculously unreasonable, unsound, or incongruent, or extremely silly or ridiculous. However, Camus has his own definition, which is, absurdity is the futility of a search for meaning in an incomprehensible universe devoid of God or meaning. Absurdism arises out of tension between our desire for order, meaning, and happiness, and on the other hand, the indifferent nature universe refusal to provide any of that. If you haven't read The Myth of Sisyphus, it's a very hard read, so I found this article from 1000 Word Philosophy, and the author, Eric Van Eycken, made it very easy to understand. So Eycken, or Eric, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his last name wrong, so Eycken said, for Camus, the absurd originates from a combination of two things: the way we want the world to be and the way the world actually is. About how we want the world to be, it just seems to be part of human nature that we have a sense of justice and fairness. So we want the world to be just and fair. We want evil punished and virtue rewarded. We also want to understand why bad things happen to good people, why good things happen to bad people, why we're here, where we're going, and what it all means. Concerning how things actually are, however, evils goes unpunished. Good deeds often are not rewarded. Good things happen to bad people, bad things happen to good people, and we don't understand any of it. We just do not. And according to Camus, we cannot understand what we want to understand. Again, Camus uses the myth of Sisyphus to prove his point of humanity's futile attempts to find meaning in a meaningless world, and the other interpretation is how humans are forced to push the same boulder every day. In the essays, there's this quote. I'm not a fan of that quote per se, so I'm going to update it. So, you wake up, drive to work, type random numbers into the computer that ultimately will not change anything. You eat lunch, work some more on those numbers that if they're not done, nothing major will happen. Nothing bad, nothing good will happen. You simply do it because it's your task at work. You drive home angrily because some people are not as efficient as you with changing lane or keeping up with the speed. You watch Netflix, you jerk off, you go to sleep. If you're lucky, you only have to repeat this 5 times a day. If you're not, it's 7 times a day. That is our boulder. I'm going to reference Eric again. He made the essay so much easier to understand. So when I reread the essay, I understand it so much faster and easier. So thank you, Mr. Icon. So here's what he says. For Camus, Sisyphus is not to be pitied. Sisyphus represents the absurd hero because he chooses to live in the face of absurdity. This choosing to live is a matter of consciousness. For through his attitude and outlook, Sisyphus can free himself from his punishment and triumph over his situation without being able to change it. Sisyphus is aware of the full extent of his punishment. He is fully conscious of the fate imposed on him by the gods and the utter futility of his existence. His passion, freedom, and revolt, however, make him stronger than the punishment intended to crush him. Though it may seem odd, Camus indicates that Sisyphus is happy. By making his rock his thing, Sisyphus finds joy in being. Perhaps the climb up becomes more comfortable over time. Maybe the muscle that once strained under the weight of the rock now effortlessly controls it. Conceivably, the rocks move so gracefully upward that the act of moving it becomes a work of art. Through his freedom, Sisyphus revolts against the gods and refuses the futility of their punishment by consciously living with passion. The rock, the mountain, the sky, the dirt belong to him and are his world. Sisyphus has no hope to change his situation, but nevertheless, he used all that's given to him and available to him. In the end of the essay, Camus ended it by saying, "One must imagine Sisyphus happy." I work 7 days a week. It's very easy for me to pity myself for my lack of free time, and sometimes I do this because sometimes it does get through me, it does get the best of me. So what I've learned after I got into absurdism, I've learned to just enjoy the small thing. I can't change my work schedule, I have to go. So instead, I relish in the work that I do. The drive to work, I put on happy music, I sit comfortably, I enjoy the view, I enjoy the beautiful car that I drive. I go to work, I take every task one at a time. I don't look toward the future because tomorrow is going to be the same the next day, the day before, the day after. I work 7 days a week, so there's no looking forward to a day off. So everything's going to be the same. So I choose to revolt against the punishment imposed upon me. I make work my bitch. I earn money from work. I use that money to fuel my love for clothes. I use that money to buy my partner nice things, to buy my kids nice things. The 7 days a week is my boulder, and I continuously get better and better at pushing it up. It's easier now for me to live knowing that life is full of contradictions, paradoxes, lack of answers from the God and the universe. So if I could go back and talk to my 5-6-year-old self that looked out into the rice field and thought, what am I doing here? What's the point of all of this? Is this going to be my view forever? If I could go back, I would tell that kid, hey, the universe doesn't have any plan for you. It's literally up to you to do whatever you want. You will stumble from situation to situation. I don't like that. Okay, let's say you stumble from room to room. Some room you can enter and leave as fast as you want. Some room you can't leave yet. The door will be locked by someone else or whatever situation may be. So enjoy the people in the room with you. Enjoy your situation in the room. Enjoy your task. Enjoy your sleeping habit, because one day that door will unlock. And when you walk to the next room, some people will not go with you. Some people will drift apart from you. Your tasks will change. Your objectives will change. Your rewards will change. So enjoy the room that you're in, because the next room will come, and then there will be new people, new objectives, and new tasks. That is why the imagery is very important to me. That is why I have to have Albert Camus on my jacket. As far as placement goes, I really like it. When I first got the jacket, I was a bit disappointed that they didn't do the quote and the imagery, but right now speaking, I've learned to really enjoy it because when people recognize it or they don't know what it's about, like, hey, well, who's that man pushing the boulder? I can explain to them, and then I can end the explanation with, one must imagine Sisyphus happy. With regard to the placement of Camus, I really like that it's on the front. I really like that when I look down like this, I can see him. So it's very convenient for me. It's very important for me that I get to see these two imageries. If it were to be on the back, I'll be slightly disappointed. Again, I'm a big fan of putting designs on the front or somewhere that I can see because I'm getting the jacket for me, not from people walking behind me. Yeah, that's the end of this video. This is slightly longer than needed to be, but if you're feeling sad, if you're constantly asking the universe for questions, for answers, whether why am I here, what's the point, what's my goal, what's my purpose, look into Absurdism. They will have some answers for you. My name is MAKASY. I will see you next week.